Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. Thank you, Siobhan. I asked her to do that song and the one that Ken's going to sing later, Ken Gale, because she sang that at our Harvey Relief concert a year and a half ago. It felt like a very apt message then about we really need each other, right? So, before I get into my part of the message, which is going to be pretty brief tonight, I wanted to just say again how good it's been to have you all in our house, those who are visiting here for the annual summit. And it has been, it's been a big lift for us and our whole staff, our volunteer corps. We've definitely stepped into it, but there are two people I definitely want to point out, and that is our Director of Special Events, Tanya Presley. Where are you, Tanya? Please stand up so we can give you some love. Thank you, Tanya. Big, big, big lift. And also our newest minister on staff. She is part-time, but Shirley Knight just graduated from UWSI in December. She is licensed now. She'll receive full ordination in June. And she has been helping Tanya. So please give some love to Shirley Knight, Reverend Shirley Knight. We have an amazing team. And how about Reverend Sheila Gautreaux and that meditation that she brought? It's embarrassing how blessed we are with the ministry team here. Reverend Sheila moved back to Houston. She has two sons and grandchildren that live here, and she is our adjunct staff minister. She's teaching and doing her wonderful radical forgiveness work and speaking, and just so we are so grateful to have all these amazing people. Because it really is about people. I was going to go look. I have no notes, so it's going to be. I don't know what I thought I was going to do over there. But I did want to share what it was like for us, because many of you, and watching via live stream, you supported our efforts. And I just wanted to remind you a little bit what that was like. This was, I think it was August 26th, maybe, if you'll remember, it was a Saturday, the day that the storm came. Reverend Howard was away. This was 8 days before Reverend Howard Caesar's final Sunday. And I was to become senior minister. And he was away, so I was sort of in charge. And we were deciding whether or not we were going to have services the next day. We knew that the storm was already dumping tons of rain further down the coast, and it was coming our way, but we didn't know. Nobody knew. This had never been seen before. But Lakewood closed, and we thought maybe they know something. That's Joel Osteen's church, in case you don't know what that is, right down the road. And so we decided not to have services. And it rained all night. I woke up early in the morning, and the rain was just pouring down in sheets. I turned on the news, and I saw the devastation. It was beginning to become clear how devastating it was, and it rained all day and all night that day, and all day and all night the next day. It's the largest rainfall in the history of any one storm as long as they've been keeping records in North America. Just east of here, over 60 inches of rain fell. There was a lot of talk about the overdevelopment of the land, the rice fields that are now concrete, and that's all true. But there are no urban planners that could have planned for 60 inches of rain in one storm coming in 3 days. It was my house did not flood. My streets did not flood in my neighborhood over behind the medical center and the museum district. But we were told to stay indoors. And the mayor said, do not get out. I mean, freeways were flooded. Whole sections of the city were underwater. We're beginning to get an idea of how many people were flooded out of their homes. And people were, I'll just tell you, for me, I was so frustrated and feeling so inept that there was nothing I could do. One of our own, Cindy Klein, I don't know if Cindy's around here somewhere. There she is. Oh my gosh. Cindy was being flooded in her home and was calling for rescue on Facebook, and no one could get to her. that the neighborhood, the trucks couldn't get in because the water was too deep, and the boats couldn't get in because places weren't deep enough. And so she was with her house full of people and 5 dogs. Yeah. And was calling out on Facebook. We were calling 911. People were desperate to try and get to her. It was terrifying for all of us, much more for you. She ended up swimming across the street with all those people and all those dogs to the neighbor's house that had a second floor and awaiting rescue there. Reverend Farrellyn Mann, as you know, was rescued. I mean, it was just a terrifying time. But even on the second day of the rain, I was calling Howard, I was calling our executive director, Carolyn. We were like, we're going to have to do something. We don't know what it is. And immediately I got a call from one of our members said, I know we're going to need money. I'm going to give $25,000. And then another member called and said, I'm going to give $25,000. And I said, well, we can raise money. And we didn't know that the way you handle disasters, the first thing you do is raise money. We didn't know that. But it was John Moore, my partner, who said, well, because I was expressing to him how helpless I was feeling. And he said, well, you could do a concert. You know how to do concerts. And I was like, I could. So I talked to Howard and I said, we planned a concert. We picked a date. And it was 2 weeks later, September 16th was the day we had the concert. And I just happened to call, who would I really want? We have a lot of great musicians here. We got all the local people to say. We got lights donated. It was incredible. I thought, who would I want to be there? I'd want Ricky Byers to be there. I'm going to just call her and see. Just so happened she was in Austin that week and was happy to come and gift her time and her talent to our concert. It was amazing. We had another $25,000 gift, and that became a matching gift. We had $75,000 in a matching gift for the concert. Our goal was to raise $100,000 total. Well, we raised almost $200,000 at that night alone. Our total ended up being almost $400,000. Yeah. We became the point of receiving from the Unity Movement worldwide and also the Centers for Spiritual Living, the religious science organization. They had asked the local minister if they would be willing to take all the funds from CSL. And that minister called me and said, I don't think we have the resources to do that. Would you be willing to receive all the collected funds for all of New Thought? And we said, absolutely. Because I was just saying yes. When people were saying they wanted to give something, I was, yes, we'll take that. I don't know how we're going to use it. Yes, absolutely, yes. Shirley. She jumped in the water barely before the rain stopped falling. There was a grassroots move. What was it? Houston helping Houston? Recover Houston. And people were just jumping in the water and helping. And Shirley was right there. She wasn't asking for permission or what our policy was. She was just getting in there. And then she would text me. It's like, we need trash bags. And it was such a scramble. But there was a grace and a flow to it as well. So it was really an amazing time. We raised $378,000. We didn't know, I assumed that we would probably just make a check to a couple of large disaster relief organizations, because we're not a disaster relief organization. And yet somebody had the idea, well, wouldn't it be better if we could just give the money directly to people and cut out the middleman and not have to pay all that administration? And so I didn't know how to do that, but we had people in our church who had disaster relief experience and who had grant writing experience. And so we ended up, this was amazing. We put a team together from just people from this church and Doug Dewar was a big part of this too. He was helping us coordinate our efforts with the Unity Movement. And we just decided that we would see if we can do it, and we could. We gave individual grants. To the 9 churches that were flooded by Harvey, we gave a check, and then about 150 people from those churches who had been flooded, we gave direct individual grants in 2 rounds. It wasn't enough to make anybody whole, but it was enough to help. A lot of people in this church, a lot of people down in Rockport, where Reverend Farrellyn is now, all over the Houston effort. And it was, the only costs were, we paid the musicians for the concert because some of them were also needing help. And all their gigs got canceled for weeks because of the storm. So that was the only expense that didn't go directly to the people from the money that we raised for people in need, from New Thought churches. It was such a profound thing. We made mistakes, obviously. We didn't know what we were doing, and yet we were, more often than not, we were guided into exactly the right ways to move forward. It was profound. I have to share with you, I thought I had told this story, but I guess I hadn't, because Mindy and Karen didn't remember me saying it. when I first began to get the inkling that I might be called to senior ministry. Because I knew I'd been doing ministry with my music for 20 years, and I knew I was called to minister in some terms. And then when seminary seemed like the next right step, I followed that intuition. It was right. But then when I became about 3 or 4 years ago, when I began to feel like I might want to lead a community, and it might be this one, because I had already fallen in love with the people here, I thought, what would I do if there were a great disaster when I was senior minister? What if there were a hurricane when I was senior minister? Really? I thought, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I would survive that test. 9 days before I became senior minister, we got the worst hurricane in the history of Houston. As if Spirit was like, well, let's just check that one off. And here was the great thing. I didn't have to do everything, which has been the chief learning in the 18 months that I have been senior minister at this church, is I keep forgetting that I don't have to do it all. I keep forgetting that I'm not responsible for the experience of all the 2,500 people who call this church home. I don't have to do everything. I just have to do my part with an open heart and a willingness to serve. And guess what? There are people who knew how to do the things I didn't know how to do. And we were able to help. It's been an amazing journey. So this is it's an update for those who didn't know how all that came out. It's a belated thank you for all of the support and the generosity to all of the Unity movement. We had, in addition to Cindy Klein, we had another staff member who had an incredible experience. I think she has the dubious honor of having not only one, but 2 homes flooded in Harvey. And she is our own Reverend Mindy Lawrence Curtis, and I've asked her to come and share her story with you now. So come on up. Please welcome Mindy Lawrence Curtis. Thank you.
Thank you for all of it. You've likely heard the axiom, the only thing that doesn't change is the fact that everything changes. Yeah? Yes. And we know that some changes can be joyful and others painful. And always change requires me to let go of how life has been. And this is proven to be true. But one thing that I know that doesn't change, what doesn't change, is that God's always in the middle of every circumstance and is consistently moving toward my well-being, and I trust that is true for all of us. Here in this wonderful sanctuary on August the 12th, 2017, Reverend Michael officiated my marriage to the love of my life, Carl Curtis. Yay! And this was a magnificent change. We chose these words as a theme for our life. It is, we do life together with Spirit. And then, change happened again. Hurricane Harvey came to visit and let its rain stay too long. And the aftermath was the release of water from the dams that caused more than 2 feet of Category 3 water into both of our homes. Category 3 water is sewage, water, oil, all this kind of good stuff. And our community came to help. Donna Fisher, our bookstore manager, set up a web page that directed volunteers to the locations and needs of those of us who had flooded. And Shirley Knight, as you heard, worked tirelessly for weeks assisting those who had flooded in more than 15 homes. We ministers called those that we had learned had flooded and prayed with them and asked what their needs were. It was 5 days before the first waters receded in Carl's home. And as soon as that went down, we had more than 15 volunteers from Unity who came to help us to be able to pack, wash, move. There's even some folks that still have some glassware and things at their homes because we haven't got them done yet. They're all not done yet. And a few days after we kind of had gotten Carl's a little bit more in order, then the water left my home, and it had been there for about a week. I want you to know that I almost experienced overwhelm, but not overwhelm from the devastation. That near overwhelm came from the outpouring of love and support. God's love moved as love in action through so many people, and my heart had to open even wider to be able to receive. I'm a giving person, and it had been a little unbalanced, and wow, I got to receive grandly. There's many, many blessings that have come out of this experience. After the flood, it was my privilege to meet monthly with those whose homes had flooded. We shared our losses and our gains and held each other in our prayers because it had been so devastating for so many of us. They were asking, what do we tell people? And they say, are you done yet? And this sort of thing. And so we came up with the answer, it's a process. I see people out here who were there. Thank you. It has been about 18 months. And what you need to know is that many of those whose flood had been in their homes have not fully been restored. And a few folks have chosen to hold on to the memory of the devastation and their anger about the flooding. And through this, it looks like they've stunted their growth and their recovery. Many of us have counted the blessings, had life be richer out of clearly knowing that what really matters in life is love and connection. That's what a great value. We are grateful for all that has been gained and has brought us back to being aware of the joy that is resident in all of us. God bless. Reverend Karen. Thank you.
Well, I've been here back at my home church a year, 4 months, and 6 days, but who's counting, you know? And I'm the one that should be applauding. I'm thrilled. I could not be happier. Coming back, and here's the thing. I was in the Texas Hill Country, which I grew up, I was born and raised in San Antonio. I came to Houston in my professional life for 25 years, which is how I found this ministry, and it was really important for me, and I became a minister, and I served with Howard Caesar for 7 years and became his senior associate. And then I felt like I was sort of complete for a while, and then I moved back to the Hill Country. I just had this longing to have my own cedar and cactus and be near the river and, you know, just really be in nature. And I was able to be there for 13 years, and all I saw around me was just nature and the sky and meteor showers on my driveway, and the moon. I learned what the phases of the moon. The very first time I had a full moon in my pitch dark yard, I thought I had left an outside light on, and I couldn't find it in my house. And I was like, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't ask William because he was asleep, and I said, I'm sure there's a light switch somewhere. We've got to have. And then I realized that's what they mean by moon shadow. I mean, seriously, I'm a city girl. That was just like news to me. So being in nature just put back so much to me that I'll tell you the truth. I had no intention. In fact, I would tell people, people would ask me, do you ever miss Houston? And I said, no. Are you ever going back? I said, no. I said, I don't care if I go east on I-10. ever. And there's nothing between here and Florida that I really care about. So Florida, I would go to Florida. So I just really just like, been there, done that. And so when Michael, invited me to consider it, he first asked me if I'd ever thought of it, and I said, no, absolutely not. But then we started talking, and of course, the opportunity. But let me just say this. It was a big decision, moving my family and coming back into this role. And you don't need to ask me about career counseling either, because I came back in the exact same role I left. So I, kind of hopeless at that too. But considering returning, there were so many opportunities in the city, though, that is really amazing, because you can name almost anything you have an interest in and find somebody who's doing it here, in their language, in your language, in a culture. There's just amazing opportunity. But at the same time, climate change is having real consequences here, and had been long before Harvey, and even when I was here before. But the call was so deep and exciting to me, and my family was willing to come, so we closed on a house in Katy 2 days before Harvey struck. And while we were signing, we'd lived here for 25 years before, and they said, oh, did you hear there's a tropical storm out there in the Gulf? And we went, oh, yeah, oh, no big deal. We'd been there, done that. Well, we had not been here and done that, that's for sure. And we have never flooded. We have never been, in a flooded situation. And we closed on the house, and within 24 hours, it became clear we couldn't even stay there. And so we went back to the house in the hill country, high up on a hill, and waited it out. And our neighborhood was spared, but within a mile of our house, hundreds of houses were not. I have seen and heard what it means when the waters rise. And though we were spared this time, I saw the home we lived in previously in Meyerland when I was here before, built in 1955 with original pegged hardwood floors that I loved. And it had never flooded. It had come close, but never. It was close to Brays Bayou, but just far away, just high enough. And so after we came back to see what happened from Harvey, Meyerland has been hit 2 or 3 times before Harvey even came. And there, out there in front of the house, were the slats of the hardwood floors. It had not escaped this time. I know there aren't any guarantees here or anywhere else, because even high in the hill country, if my house flooded, it could only be from a ruptured pipe or a biblical event. Let me just say that. Noah and his ark would be floating by. That's a different Bible story. But our home was also dependent on well water. And in a protracted drought, which we did experience in the 13 years that we were there, I feared that if our well ever went dry, that our house would be unlivable and probably unsellable. We had already seen the Guadalupe River, which was 2 miles away from us, dry up to reveal a bed of bleached rocks several times, sometimes multiple times in the same summer. I feared the West Texas desert was coming to claim my house. Coming to Houston again, I have come this time with my eyes open and my heart wide open. I've come to serve people, no matter what human life brings. Our teachings are durable enough for any hurricane or Holocaust or earthquake or fire or disease. It is our unity in humanity and our oneness in spirit that makes this a safe universe. I know that. Our bodies will die, but our life continues. I have come to see that the universe is a closed system. You know what I mean by that? Any science majors? A closed system? A closed system is a field in which everything within this is contained, that nothing escapes, that everything interacts with everything else and has an effect. And it's a closed system. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. And in some ways, that's how I see the universe now. The universe is a closed system. It's closed in the sense that nothing can be lost. Nothing is added. Nothing is strange or estranged from the universe. It is all a part, and it all affects everything. And everything affects everything else and impacts everything else. And at the same time, this closed system is limitless and eternal. Who thought that up? That is incomprehensible, and yet it is the truth in which we live. And we aren't the only ones who know this. Ram Dass said, in the end, we're all just walking each other home. Course in Miracles tells us that we've never really left our true home. It's always available to us, always waiting for us to wake up to it in a holy instant, again and again and again. This is our nature, this is our truth, and I know it in the depths of my being, and I am not afraid of anything anymore. I'm not afraid of my death or your death or anything, because I know that the resilience of these teachings will take us to the outer limits and beyond. I've come full circle here because this is also my spiritual home. This was my home church and how I grew up spiritually. I grew up physically in San Antonio, but I grew up spiritually at Unity of Houston. And I've come to join Reverend Michael in shepherding Unity of Houston and pioneering the next iteration of what ministry is to become. We will discover it together. We'll be discovering it with you. To use this beautiful campus in this amazing city to serve not only those who call Unity of Houston their spiritual home, but our larger Houston community, our New Thought community, our world. This is a tremendous mission and a deep calling. So tonight, I ask you, if our teachings do not serve to relieve suffering, what are they for? If they do not give us the courage to stand for justice and for fairness, then what good are they? This is what we have come to do. This is why we are here now. This is why you are seated in these seats tonight, and why it is that you do the work that you do. Because this is our time to bring these principles not just from the page, not just for classes, but to live them and to embody them and to impart them into the world and to bring them into every aspect of human life. Because actually, these are not just spiritual principles that belong in a church. They are truth principles that belong in every aspect of our lives. And what doesn't work in our human life is because we have forgotten the truth. And so if we will take the truth that we know and walk that talk, wherever we go, we will change the world in exactly the right way and exactly the right time. Because you see, it's not enough that I live a good life if it's at the expense of others. Our oneness is too palpable to me now to ignore this responsibility and this calling. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "We are tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality." Closed system. And whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So what happens when the waters rise again? Because they will. I know. We help each other onto dry ground, and we build a new home together. That's what we do. God bless us all.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.